First item of business will be to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item is statements, remarks from citizens. This is for anything not on the agenda tonight. Any statements or remarks from commissioners? The update on Dawson Park, we are working through from our strategic planning, going with that option B for phase one. So we may have some action items on that next week, depending on how our negotiations go through this week on that. Also, leveling work for resurfacing of Dials Mill Road and Antioch Church Road will start as soon as tomorrow. And then the patching crews are currently finishing up on Dials Mill, and then they'll move to Cooper Gin and Choice Johnson Road. A lot of miles of road getting paved this year. T-Splost, a huge contributor to getting that done. Next item is Government Communicators Day Proclamation presentation. And we're going to ask Commissioner Thomas to read that for us.
Whereas the role of government communications professionals is to inform, educate, and engage communities, and whereas robust communication in government creates trust and inspires residents to take action and to be involved, and whereas government communicators create relationships and calls to action, build awareness and understand through storytelling, engage and foster engagement on civic issues, and use all channels to keep the public informed. And whereas strong communications in government is a foundational element of living in a democracy where citizens have the freedom to make their voices heard. And whereas the Oconee County government is committed to excellence in communications and transparency in government and recognizes the professionalism, dedication, hard work, commitment, enthusiasm, and sacrifice of our communications professionals. Whereas the Oconee County Communications Department is led by Director Diane Baggett. Now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners of Oconee County does hereby proclaim February 21st, 2025 as Government Communicators Day in Oconee County, Georgia, and recognizes the members of the Office of Communications who work to ensure that Oconee County has effective, impactful, and successful communication strategies that resonate and are relevant. Signed by John Daniel, Chairman, Oconee County Board of Commissioners.
All right, next time is discuss updates to the physical ordinance. We're going to ask Melissa to come up.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. We do try to periodically review our fiscal ordinance. This particular review has been kind of approaching for a little while now as we experience increased costs for goods and services and feedback from our departments and our vendors. We had a need to look at Table 1, which is the table at the end of the document that describes our purchasing limits and authorizations. So in light of that, we took a look at the entire fiscal ordinance to see if there are any other changes. since we had last looked at this in January of 2022. So I'm here this evening to present to you what changes we've made throughout the document. We have removed two sections. One is the local tax revenue section, section number 9, from the last approved policy. And that was just kind of reiterating state law. So whether that's in our fiscal policy or not, we're going to comply with the state law. And we just felt like this wasn't really the place for that component. And same for section 21, which pertained to salary deductions, which is more appropriately described within the human resources policy. So we've removed that as well. We've updated section 13, which is in regards to depository of funds. The original document requested that if we wanted to do a request for proposal of banking services, that we come to the board to get approval to move forward with that request. We've revised that section so that finance and procurement can initiate those RFPs, but still bring them back to the board with a recommendation and approval resulting from those RFPs. In section 21, it's our purchase orders and contract section. We've made several changes. We have removed language that others thought was confusing due to lack of definitions. We mentioned here specifically contracts and agreements may have been used interchangeably or had different authorizations, maybe by the board or maybe by a county administrator, but we didn't have a clear definition of what those were. So we have removed all of those references to contract and agreements, and we're now just referring to the table in the fiscal ordinance for what needs to go where for approval. We've added a section to define sole source procurement and also added a couple of tools in there that we can use at certain limits that holds finance accountable and departments accountable to really confirming that purchases are sole source before we move forward, to ensure that we don't have other vendors that could offer us competitive pricing, as well as updated the competitive bid requirements for multi-year contracts. We have contracts that we may approve for 1 year and have 4 optional renewal periods. So we're just requesting now that all of those go through our competitive bid process and aren't agreed to without allowing other vendors to provide pricing. And section 28 is our receipt and deposit of funds section. Previously did not have a requirement of time for deposits to be made. So we've inserted a 3 business day requirement so that funds are deposited timely. In table 1, the update of the summary of procurement methods and authorizations is probably the most noticeable change. So I'll kind of cover those for you. We are proposing that up to $15,000 require 1 verbal quote, whereas previously up to $5,000 required 1 verbal quote, up to $10,000 required 2 verbal quotes, and up to $15,000 provided 3 written quotes. The goal here is to allow up to $15,000 with cost increases is kind of the new equivalent of a $5,000 to $10,000 purchase. Also, kind of making that burden on our departments a little bit smoother so that they can get their goods and service purchased more efficiently. And also in hoping that at the next limits that we go to, we'll be more inviting to vendors to provide quotes, because it does take a lot of their time and resources to provide the pricing information to us. So now we are requesting anything over $15,000 and up to $25,000 obtain 2 written quotes. Previously required 3 written quotes. And anything from $25,000 to $100,000 requiring 3 written quotes from vendors, whereas previously that limit would have been a competitive bid process. So we would issue an intent to bid or request for proposal, wait 30 days, receive that information back, and then have a committee formed to review and award those contracts. And there's no change to any other purchase greater than $100,000, same as prior, where we do the competitive sealed bid or formal bid process here. And anything greater than $100,000 will still continue to come back to you as the board to have the opportunity to review and approve those items. Outside of that, there were some redundant and duplicate information throughout the policy that we tried to tidy up a little bit and moved a few things around into other sections where they seemed more appropriate. I do have a document showing all of the changes or the current fiscal policy if you want that for review. And I believe that you all have a draft of the current final draft that we're requesting approval of. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any on the fiscal ordinance changes.
Do you have any questions for Melissa?
Just want to make sure that on page 16 of what physical ordinance, that is what you're proposing as far as this,
The table? Yes, sir.
that is correct.
That's correct.
Now, on those authorization, remind me, does it take, like on the 10 to 15, does it take either one of the two or just, or both?
Mhm. It takes both.
Okay. Oh. As long as you understand that, because it doesn't say,
It does not say
And-
that. Yes, sir. Anything over $5,000 takes both the procurement officer's review and the finance director's review. So I could certainly insert that in so that it was clear that it required both.
whatever, I mean, it just, for the layperson, it would appear that either one could do it, but you're saying it takes both.
Yes, sir, it does. Mhm.
So it's not a and or, it's and.
It's an and it is an electronic approval process through our financial software. And it routes through both for approval.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think you said this, right, on the RFPs, banking,
Yes.
once that they come in, the board still votes on the final, right?
Yes, sir. We're just requesting not to come and request to do the RFP, but we would still present the recommendation to you for your approval.
Any other questions? Is that all right for consent agenda on this item? Thank you,
Those
Melissa.
change, with that change.
You gonna add that?
I'll make the
With
change.
and.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any public comment? Thank you. Next item is discuss the reallocation of funds for the Clotfelter Bridge at Barber Creek project. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. There we go. Final budget for utility relocation at State Route 53 in Snows Mill for Rocky Branch.
Evening, Commissioners. So back in October, I brought you a resolution, that was based off of GDOT estimates. I think it was October. And now that we have the contractor actuals, we're required to bring this, to the BOC to finalize that resolution. So if y'all, I'm not gonna just read black and white. I mean, y'all can see that, but, if y'all got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yes, one question. With that, I noticed that the payment was going to DOT. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so I would assume that the DOT would secure a contractor for that.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's been, the contractor's been secured.
Any other questions? Be all right for consent? Good, thank you. Do we have any public comment? Thank you. Now we can discuss reallocation of funds for the Clotfelter Bridge at Barber Creek Road project.
All right, so this project, to my knowledge, has been on our scope for several years now. It's kind of been shelved for us for about 2 or 3. So what I would, now they're wanting to go and get this bridge upgraded. I'm not sure what the full extent of the actual bridge upgrade is, but we do have a small line of water line or water main we have to move. So to do that, I had funds set aside for some capital projects for some easement acquisitions that I know that can't happen this fiscal year. So I want to reallocate that money to this operation to where we can get that relocated. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Oh, no.
If you're moving it from other categories, will you need us to, during the budget cycle, to reallocate? Put money back in where you get it from?
As for, I don't guess I understand your question fully.
Yeah,
There won't be a need for that this fiscal year. We're going through the fiscal year 26 budget right now, and if there is a need to put money back or reallocate it in the acquisition piece, this is more of like a neutral budget amendment from one category to the other. If we look like we're going to go through those easement acquisitions next year, we'll bring that before the board for approval and consideration at that time.
Yeah, what he said. And this request does include all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project.
Got one more question.
So it stays within the existing right of way, the relocation.
Yes, yes, sir.
Anybody else? Everybody okay with consent?
Thank you.
Any public comment? Next item is discuss the SPLOST farmland preservation funding. The Farmland Preservation Committee recommended the Steve and Paula Nesda Farm for conservation easement in the amount not to exceed $100,000 in October of 2021. We now have a closing date for mid-March of this year. So the request is for approval of the SPLOST distribution for the Nesda Farm from the 2021 SPLOST Farmland Protection Project, including budget amendment approval in the amount of $100,000, and authorize the chairman to execute the necessary document. This is about how long it takes to get a conservation easement through the system.
It's a long time.
Long time. So, you know, we're just talking before the meeting about Russ Page, and he's kind of the father of this thing that got it started. So kudos to him for pushing that through all those years.
Aren't we the only county in the state that does this?
We have for a very long time. We were, I think there was, Oglethorpe got close. I don't know if they ever closed that.
Morgan County was talking about it.
Yes. I don't think they've pulled.
We are seen as a leader for this mistake. I've received calls about our program.
Any questions on this item? We are up for consent. Yes. Do we have any public comment? Thank you. The next item is discuss the RFP for health insurance brokerage service to explore self-funded coverage. This is continuation from our strategic planning meeting. We started a big push last year, brought in somebody to look at it from 100,000-foot view, kind of review the data that we had, and kind of give us some steps into looking into going self-funded. We're trying to do it in a way that we can have no negative impact to the employees, and also create a system that the county can fund and maintain long-term. We issued a proposal, RFP, interviewed with 3 firms, and a firm was selected to go take the data we did have and review it to see if it was feasible from a 10,000-foot view. Our next step is to get in the weeds on claims, which is taking the detailed data and actually go to market. Now, this will give us a final and true cost of self-funding. With that comes contracts, liability calculations, insurance commissioner. We have to do registration and follow regulations from that office. Also negotiating with administrators of claims or prescription drug managers, and also in the secondary insurance market. With all that going on, that will produce a solid number to make the final go, no-go for self-insured. If the numbers are something that the board feels comfortable with, then everything's set and ready to go. If they're not, then self-funding stops and we continue on with a fully funded program. This process, we will incur no coverage liability impact during this period, and also there will be zero impact to the employee while this is continued on. So next week we'll present, like we did a couple months ago, the results from the RFP, and make a decision on whether to move forward for investigating further self-funded or just stay where we're at with a fully funded program. even with a fully funded program, we will need to do an RFP for fully insured brokerage at that point. I've talked to some of you over the last few weeks, answering questions. I'll be happy to do that tonight or meet with you. We'll provide any data that you'd like to see and just open it up for questions at this time if anybody's got any right now. This will not be a consent item. Be something we'll just talk about next week when we get to it. Happy to answer any questions.
Just, sure I could look it up if I had the time, but, how much do we expend total cost of health insurance for all of our employees?
4 point, what? We're almost, just say 5 million.
And what do you think this, exploration is gonna cost us? We're putting out an RFP, but we won't know what it's gonna cost us till we put the RFP out.
For the self-insured? Yes,
Well,
we
this
won't.
exploration that you're talking about.
So it'll be part of the brokerage fees. I think we'll be probably in the $100,000 to 150.
I'm sorry. So when we sent this RFP out, it's gonna cost us that much?
Yes, but that'll be all your right now, our brokers receive, well, they did up till January of this year, receive a percentage of the premium, which can run from right around a couple 100,000, what it's been running the last several years, based on that percentage. So that will go away, and we'll just be writing check. Even if we decide to stay with self-funded, we're gonna get away from the percentage base and just contract with, hey, here's what I'll charge you to do this job. That way, they're working for us, not.
Let me try to rephrase that. This RFP, is for broker services to explore self-funded coverage. Is that gonna be in the narrow scope of that RFP?
No, they will actually be full brokerage service for us. Whoever gets assigned that deal. So they will help with open enrollment. They will negotiate with the existing provider, handle claims disputes of employees having trouble getting a claim through. They'll be a full service for everything that's related to health insurance.
All right, so this RFP will help us decide which way to go,
Yes,
and that's gonna cost $150,000.
along with everything else that we're talking about.
Oh.
What's 5% of 5 million? Yeah.
250, yeah.
So the standard brokerage fee commission is about 5% of,
Okay.
so if you're paying 5% on your premium, that would be less if that's the number that's being transferred over.
All right, so this is not a standalone looking at just self-funded coverage.
No. So part of the problem it's hard to get data under a fully insured program. Go-to market. So that whoever this is assigned this RFP, if this goes forward, we'll work with the existing provider to get that data, take it to market.
So the end results of what they're gonna provide us for us to make a decision as to whether to go stay like we are or go to self-funded.
Yes. They will come back with a number saying, if you go self-funded, here's what you're gonna need. You're gonna have had this much in reserve.
Right.
You're gonna have to put this much in the program every year. And here's what it's gonna cost to go to the secondary market. So here's all-in cost of this go in. And then everybody can digest that and say, okay, that's too rich for our blood, or hey, that makes sense. And
All right, so whoever the person or the company that this receives this award for this RFP, we will be in business with them.
yes, regardless
for-
of whatever.
For how long? For a year? Okay.
It's probably our standard contract where it's
Okay.
you can do renewals for so many, I think 5 years is kind of our limit. So every 5 years, we will go bid for a brokerage, whether it's self-funded or for fully insured.
Yes, it's what we're doing now.
Just who's doing it. If this goes forward as recommended, then the broker of record will change. They will explore further whether to go fully insured or not. We'll be back in this same setting once they complete that data. And they'll come back and say, this will probably be toward the end of the year because they'll have updated claims and go to market closer to renewal, which will be January 1. They'll bring that back to us last quarter and say, here's the numbers. They maybe make a recommendation, hey, we think you should do it, or maybe you shouldn't. But the final decision rests with this board on saying, it's easy for them to feel comfortable with our money, right? So we'll get to make the final call. Then we're done with it. I don't see us approaching it again. If we say no, fine. If we say yeah, then we're continuing down that road.
Will the broker also give us the benefits of the program if we do self-funded?
Yes,
That'll be part of the presentation.
right. So right now, the goal is to have no change in coverage downward, right? So if we go self-funded, it'll be at least what we have right now. And through this whole process, we've learned some things about going self-funded that we might even be able to improve some of the conditions under the HSA program, make it more attractive for people who are nervous to move over. And also help the employees RDN. So all they'll come back with a check sheet that says, here's the benefits of the program, here's your existing benefits. You compare one to another, make sure. RFP's been out, so this is what we'll bring back next week. Yeah. Any more questions? Huh? Yeah, please do. All right. We do have need of executive session to discuss land acquisition, personnel matters, and litigation.
For litigation, land acquisition, and personnel.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All in favor?
Aye.
I think we're stuck tonight.
Yeah,
Commissioner Saxon.
let's call him up. Wake him up.
Do we have anybody who will adjourn us with a motion?
So moved.
Second. Awesome, we're adjourned.